bad. Just one thing of introduction. My wife and I share the screen, and she is the co-chair of the AAUW of Massachusetts, and she needs this at 4 o'clock. So I told her I'd be off by 10 to 4. And in my eyes, that's good because I don't like long meetings. If we can't get things done in 45 minutes, schedule another meeting, then something's wrong, I think. I thought, since I know everybody except Nicole, I thought maybe we could just go around, excuse me, go around very quickly and just say who we are and why we're here, I guess. Maybe start with you, Nicole, since I don't know you.
Oh, geez. Well, nice to meet you. I'm Nicole Holmes. Oh, let's see. I have lived in Bridgewater since 2015. Before that, I lived in nearby Middleborough, and I, grew up in Westport. So I've been around. I'm just not living in Bridgewater, but in living here, I did a lot of walking and searching for trails in the town, and really started to kind of get to understand it a little better. And at one point had reached out to Michael and to find out if I could, join a committee. I had younger children, so I didn't really want to overcommit myself on planning board or conservation commission, and open space seemed a good fit. My professional career, I'm actually a civil engineer. I focus on stormwater management and sustainability and resilience planning. So I'm certainly in the industry. I am not a landscape architect or a botanist or an ecologist, but I work with all of those folks as part of the work that I do. So, I'm just very much an advocate for trees, preservation of trees, open space. And, one of my main concerns that I've seen is just some development patterns, including clear cutting, that really had me concerned for the viability of our, habitat and tree cover in this beautiful town. So sorry, that was way too long, but I wanted you to kind of understand my background.
No,
Ray.
that's good. I just noticed on the screen, you work for Niche Engineering?
Oh, I do. Yes. So sorry. Right now I'm on my, personal time, not Niche Engineering's time. So I can
say
choose
that
my.
because being on the planning board, we've used you in the past. Yeah. I forget
Yes.
the gentleman's name that.
It's probably Josh Alston or Steve Ventresca.
Neither one sounds familiar.
Neither one?
No.
I'll see who does them.
No,
Yeah.
never mind. Whatever. Yeah, I know a while back we did use. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So we do peer review for different towns. Yeah, it's not something that I work on, but I have in the past. So, not for Bridgewater.
You know Bill and you know Shirley from a year ago, right? So
I do.
You probably know Jennifer too from that time. So there's no need for an introduction then. All right, let me just very quickly, I'm new to this little committee. And my feeling is that, well, I've told you before, I think I told you, Nicole, that this whole thing started when the issue of tree cutting was going to take place with the solar farm in 18, and they were going to take 9 to 10 acres of trees down. I suggested that they give some mitigation money to plant new trees. They agreed. That didn't fall through. That fell through. But at that time, 2.5 years ago, we talked about the idea of a tree board to decide how to spend that money. It's gone on for 2.5 years. We're moving now, and so the agreement I have with Michael is that we will have this in place to give him a recommendation for a permanent board by the end of August. So in effect, my understanding is from Michael that the ad hoc committee is in effect right now, and that we are on the board, and that Paul DaCosta and Azu Antonaro will also be on. They cannot make Thursday meetings, at least not right now. And that we will present to him a outline of what we want for the personal board in terms of the people on it and the basic setup for what that board will be able to do. And if he okays, obviously, yes, to okay it, he will then present it to powers that be, to the council to set up the admin code to put us in And that may take a while to do that. Am I correct, Jennifer, in what I just said? Yeah,
I believe that's correct. I'm sorry, I was a few minutes late. I was on the phone with Pat for school, so I'm sorry.
you can hang up on him. It doesn't, he's not.
I'm gonna tell him you said that.
He's
But I
minor.
believe what you explained is the correct.
All right, so our directive is pretty straightforward. And my feeling right now is that we set up a procedure as to what data we have to gather, read it, talk about it, and come up with this plan to present to Michael by the end of August. And I think we can do it. I guess my first question to all of you is, are you able to meet during the summer on a regular basis? What I mean, at least bi-weekly. Is that an issue for anybody?
As long as it's virtual.
Yeah, I'll be virtual. Yeah, it will be virtual. I'm told, Azu and Paul are on this committee, and Thursdays are not good right now. And I believe Paul also said Monday's not great for him. Let's decide right now on a particular time for our next meeting, so we don't have to rush at the end. Any problems?
And I think just Paul needs to be before 3 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I'm
as
sorry.
well.
That's right. He did say that. He would like it before 3 o'clock. Yeah. Any problems with time for any of you?
So if we were to set it up for, let's say, 2 o'clock, would that be sufficient?
That's good with me.
Good with me. Nicole?
Yeah, most of the time I can do that. I obviously have work meetings, but I don't always have them at 2. Let's see if I have any standing meetings. At 2. Not really. So that should be okay for me most of the time. So
Okay.
it sounds like it would either be a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Fridays, yeah, summer Fridays, especially in the afternoon, I might be beaching it. So
Right, I
Tuesday,
think-
Wednesday would be great.
Okay.
Let's
Any,
suggest Tuesday if we may, just to move it on.
yep. This
Tuesday
Tuesday,
at 2 o'clock.
okay. You
Tuesday's
want
good
to
with me.
go, Bill, you said, is Tuesday okay with you, Bill?
Yes, it is.
Okay, how about 2 o'clock? What's the, what day is it? It's the 21st today. How about the, well, I'll tell you what, let's decide once we get through, once we go through some of this material, whether we want to meet next week or 2 weeks.
20.
Okay. I think it'll probably be 2 weeks. If we can get some homework and we study, then we can try to put things together. So let's tentatively say right now, July 5th.
No, 28th.
Wait a minute.
Today is the 16th.
I'm sorry. Excuse
It
me.
would be June
All right.
20.
Yeah, June 28th. Yeah, June 28th. How about that? June 28th at 2? Okay, going once?
Yep.
Going
Good.
twice? All right, good. Okay, I don't know if any of you went through, but Jennifer sent out a number of attachments on the regulation of trees right now. If you haven't gone through it, I think you should go through it. It's the admin code, the ordinances regarding trees, and also the subdivision control laws regarding trees. Have you all, you all at least have those? Okay, I think that's important to go through them so we at least know what we, oh, just forgot. We need somebody to take notes. Josh is not going to be taking notes. I can throw something together if you want, unless somebody wants to. If I throw something together, it'll be basic, believe me.
Can we ask if a staff person can take the notes and distribute them? So we're trying to centralize the information, i.e. the sending out of the Zoom meetings and schedule and minutes or notes or whatever we want to call them. Is it
Well, that
possible
would-
to do that through the staff?
That would mean,
I guess you're the only staff member here. Is that something you can do?
Josh said he would not be doing it. I don't know. Josh, what do you say? How
Yeah,
would-
so I can schedule and send out everything. I can't guarantee that I can make every meeting. So that's why I just said you guys should just, if one of the members could just take some basic notes. I mean, even if it's just basic notes that you send to me, I can format them and everything. But I can't guarantee that I'll be at every meeting.
Okay, so what you're saying is, what if you're here, you could do the notes then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Okay, Shirley?
Fine.
Okay, that's good. All right, again, we have the material that Jennifer sent on the town code, the ordinances and the subdivision control rules regarding trees. I think it's worth looking at them because we have to, when we come up with our own rules, we obviously can't override something that's been accepted by the town. So if you haven't gone through them, I advise you maybe for the next meeting, you go through them in detail. They seem to overlap in some cases, but that's the way it is. Any comments on that? No. Jennifer, what do you, anything from you? No? All right.
No, just I'm here to answer questions if anyone has any questions.
All right. Well,
Jennifer, the one document was called draft standards in proposed zoning ordinances. So that is draft text or it says draft.
So it's not, it's listed like that because it's not been officially approved by the council yet. It's going back to the council for second reading on July 12th, hopefully for a final vote at their meeting on, I think it's August 2nd. So I'm hoping by August 2nd, that will be final language, but I have to list it as draft until it's finally approved.
Okay,
You're referring to draft number 14?
yes.
Yes,
And then the other document that is just an excerpt from the existing subdivision rules and regulations.
that's correct.
Okay, so I saw that. Okay,
Okay, then Jennifer, that draft 14 is part of the complete package of zoning changes, correct?
That is correct. And that we hadn't changed. I know there's been other draft numbers since number 14, but we hadn't changed that since 14. So that's why that still says 14. We're on draft number 18, but the standards hadn't changed since 14.
All right. Bill,
I don't have anything to say about that at this point, although I did see that document that Mary Lee sent in late.
yeah, I sent that out too, yeah.
Yeah,
That, I'm not sure when that, some of you are more knowledgeable of the past, and obviously more knowledgeable in the past than I am. That, I'm not sure where I got that from, but I think that may have come out over a year ago. I don't know. I'm not sure. So it was just her suggestion about the organization. I just sent it to you because I had it.
yeah.
All right. You want to talk about the makeup of the board, or who should be on it, number of people and who should be on it? Any thoughts on that? I mean,
Well,
I think
we're-
that's important to do right up front so that those people can get on board and be with us right at the get-go.
well, again, I just want to stress, we're making a recommendation. What we're saying is not final. I mean, Michael could change things, so.
we're looking at 7 at this point, are we not?
Yeah, I prefer small boards, but 7, if you, whatever you guys think.
Well, with Azu and Paul,
Well, 7 right now for us, but our final, we're an ad hoc committee. We could recommend in that the permanent board be 5 or it could be 9. I mean, it's good. It could change. We could change things. So let's look at it this way. Who should be on it? What type of person should be on it?
Are we talking about this ad hoc or are we talking about the permanent board?
I'm sorry, we're talking about the permanent board. We're going to recommend to Michael as the people on the permanent board, not necessarily the individuals themselves, but what, and whether it be the highway superintendent should be on it, et cetera, you know.
I think surely the highway department should be on.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay. Next,
I think we ought to have a tree warden on there.
no question about it.
Okay,
Next. Keep going.
Because the BIA has been involved in trees in this town for many years, more than I can remember, I think there should be at least one, if not two members of the BIA on there.
well, that would certainly be you, Shirley.
BIA 1 or 2, okay?
Only temporarily, Bill.
Yeah, okay.
Next. We have 3 or 4 now.
Well, who's got the organizational skills, the political organizational skills that we need to set this board up? Would that be Jennifer or yourself, Ray?
Well, we're talking about the board when it is fully implemented, not necessarily the process that's going, we're doing it right now. We are part of the process. We're the ones that have to beat Michael over the head to get this moving. But once it's done, it's done. I mean, you know, all of us or none of us may be on.
I think then by title, we should have somebody from the planning board.
I'll put that aside. I have mixed feelings about that, but that's a possibility. I guess what I'm saying is, if there's room for somebody like from the planning board, that's fine. But if we really need, do we need a specialist, for instance, somebody, an arborist or something?
Definitely.
Yes.
But I think because the planning board is probably the first group that sees developers and so on, that they ought to be involved with it from the very beginning.
All right, we'll put down planning board. We can vote on this once we get this list. Okay, we have highway, we have tree warden, we have BIA 1 or 2, we have planning board.
I would like to suggest an arborist, but I don't know where we get them.
Well, let's put down just what we think is best. We don't have to, you know, make a final. We don't know. Maybe we can get somebody we don't know.
I'm sure there are several certified artists that live in Bridgewater that if we knew about this committee might be interested.
Okay.
I don't know myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it possible that the town office might have access to who in the town is an arborist?
No.
Jennifer, is that something that the town?
I don't think, the only thing, if Marilee, when she does the census, if you write your occupation, and I don't know, not every town requires that. I don't know if Bridgewater does or not, because I don't live in Bridgewater, so I don't know if it's required in Bridgewater to write your occupation on the census. That would be the only way we would know if somebody's an arborist or not.
Could you, being up there in the town hall, could you find out if there's any office up there that might have a record of who might be an arborist in this town?
Yeah, I won't be back in town hall until Wednesday, but I can certainly find out.
Well, excuse me, that's good to know, but that's not something we need to know exactly right now. I think if we want an arborist on the committee, that's simply our recommendation, and then Michael could try to get somebody. I'm just looking at some of the things that Jennifer sent out from other towns. For instance, Somerville, they have 11 members on the board, a tree warden, urban forestry planner, and 9 members of the public. In Dover, appointed by the selectmen, tree warden, superintendent of streets. Tree warden, these all have tree wardens on, and some just general members of the public on, not necessarily a specialist. if you looked at it, that's basically it. The tree warden, the superintendent of streets, seems to be the main thing.
A landscape architect wouldn't be a bad idea either.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
If we're going to be deciding on where to plant trees in town, and of course, what trees we're going to plant, a landscape architect would be helpful.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, our board is up to round 7. We have highway. Any problems with highway? Let's just go through this. Tree warden. We don't want the tree warden.
No,
BIA, 1 or 2. What do you think? 1 or 2? BIA, are you aware, Nicole, of the BIA?
Is that the improvements
Yeah.
association? Yeah, I mean, I think obviously definitely 1. I was thinking like what other kind of sustainability or environmentally focused groups we have in the, in the town. There really aren't many that I'm aware of besides there's Conservation Commission. That was something in the back of my mind too, if we would want to consider a representative from Concom. Or, I mean, the committee that I'm a member of, which was open space. And I think that was the reason that I, was on the ad hoc committee, really to just be a representative from open space or perhaps the public.
So you think open space should be on?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, open space. Okay, so why don't we say regarding, I think BIA is critical. There's no question in my mind, whether it's 1 or 2 people, I think we could probably make a final decision later, because BIA is the group that's planting trees right now. All right, highway, tree warden, BIA, planning board, I guess, an arborist, an architect, and somebody from open space. How about somebody from the general public? Somebody just has interest. What do you say?
If they're a landscape architect or an arborist.
there you go.
That could,
Nice try.
I mean, I think so. Some, that I mentioned, we don't have that many environmentally focused committees, but maybe this,
Well, somebody like Pat Neary, who is very environmentally focused and is a citizen. And
That's what you get, Pat, for signing on to these.
there you go.
calls. Okay, you want 1 or 2 members from the public? We realize we're up to 8 or 9 right now.
I think one is good.
1.
1? So,
One.
Okay, we have highway, tree warden, BIA, planning board, arborist, architect, some from open space, and somebody from the general public. You want to vote on that? As what we recommend as a makeup of we can finalize all this before we send this obviously to Michael, but I'm just saying for now, is that where we're looking at? Shirley?
Question. Jennifer, are you going to be at all of the meetings that you can make? Is it your job to be at these meetings? Let's put it that way.
Well, my job is to do what Michael Dutton tells me to do. So if Michael Dutton directs me to be at tree committee meetings, then I guess I'll be at tree committee meetings. But because the committee doesn't exist yet, he hasn't told me that. So I don't know the answer to that.
I know that when we started, we talked about a note taker and we talked about that being a staff person. I don't know if that's something that you can do or whether we should have somebody else on staff, not necessarily a member of the committee, but certainly one who is going to have a specific job and be at all the meetings if they're going to take notes.
Are you talking,
that
I'm sorry, Shirley, are you talking about now or when the permanent committee is formed?
A permanent committee.
Okay.
Well, so that would be, you know, as Michael as town manager would, you know, identify staffing needs for other committees like he does now, like,
Right.
excuse me, like Josh does some committees, people in my office do some committees. There's other people in town that staff other committees. So I would think Michael would be the one to determine the staffing needs for each committee.
Okay. All right, that's fine. As long as it's something that we understand, we should have somebody whose responsibility will be for note taking and distributing those notes. And,
Well, once it's an official committee, you're required to take minutes and post agendas. So they will have to, somebody will have to do that.
okay, thank you.
Right. Okay. Then we agree on the proposed makeup for now anyway of the committee. Okay. Meetings monthly? Once a month?
Say again, Ray? What did you say?
Would you recommend that we meet once a month, that the permanent committee meet once a month? Or more?
I would like to say twice a month right now until we see what our tasks are and how they can be tackled in order to meet the August deadline. Do you think?
I'm sorry, sure, I'm talking about the permanent committee.
Oh,
Right now, we'll easily be meeting twice a month, I think, yeah.
all
But I'm
right.
talking about the permanent committee. Right now, what I'm trying to get across is what we're going to recommend to Michael. So we're recommending a board made up of 8 or 9 people, and that we meet once a month or twice a month or whatever. It seems to me once a month is probably good enough.
I would agree, Ray, once a month for what we have to deal with.
Okay. All right. Jennifer, question for you. Some of these boards separate powers and duties. In other words, they show the powers of the tree board, and then they list the duties of the tree board.
Mhm.
Do you look upon that as 2 distinctive areas, or can we sort of combine them?
Well, I think you could combine them. I think that's just probably the way it's set up in their bylaw or ordinance. I haven't looked at our admin code to see how it's set up, so I can quickly do that, but I think you can combine them. I mean, some of them say duties, responsibilities, so I think, yeah, it just depends on how you want it set up. I don't know if there's any hard and fast rule.
In other words, I'm just looking at the proper way of doing this. In other words, there doesn't have to be an ordinance that's also passed giving the tree board certain powers, or, you know what I'm saying?
Well, they'll have to be an ordinance passed to create the tree board, and within that ordinance, it will create their powers.
So the board will, the ordinance will specify what the tree board can do.
It should, yes. But when the council puts forward an ordinance to create the board, it'll say the tree board's created, made up of this many people from these walks of life or whatever. And it'll say, and their duties and responsibilities or their powers are, and it'll probably bullet point list whatever the duties and responsibilities are.
All
So we
right.
don't have to get involved in that.
No, that's what
you-
you're
that's
recommending
what-
to
well,
Michael.
Yeah, we're recommending that, Shirley.
Okay,
All right, so what you're saying again, Jennifer, just to be clear, that we simply list the what we consider to be responsibilities of the tree board, and assuming that Michael agrees, that will be put into the permanent.
Yes,
I think
so I'm looking at the town code right now. And so the way our committees are set up, they have a term of office, which lists how many people on the committee and how long they're appointed for. And then it says authorities and responsibilities is what it's called in ours. And it's grouped together as one. So it like lists everything that they're responsible for and what they have authority over. And then it says, and then there's a one that's interrelationships. So it lists how they interrelate with other boards and committees in town. So it like lists the town council and what their responsibility is back to the council, the town manager, what their responsibility is back to the town manager. And so that's how ours is set up.
So what you're saying, that I didn't think of that before, what you're saying is we should we should try to explain our relationship with other boards too?
Well, so for example, I'm looking at the Open Space Committee right now, and under interrelationships, it says Town Council. The Open Space Committee interacts with the Town Council to establish policies and propose legislation concerning open space preservation and acquisition within the town. With the town manager, the Open Space Committee interacts with the town manager through the town's Community and Economic Development Director to ensure that open space components of the open space and recreation plan are up to date, and to coordinate with the preservation of targeted open space through deed restriction, gift, and purchase options. And then other bodies, the Open Space Committee interacts with the Conservation Commission, the Parks and Rec Commission, Water and Sewer Commission, Community Preservation Committee, Historical Commission, and other multiple member bodies as necessary.
All right, so, okay, that's good. So we should have something to that effect also in the,
Mhm.
okay,
Most likely, yes.
yeah, well, that shouldn't be too bad. What about,
And it can be as basic as that. And you take out the open space stuff, but add, tree planting or whatever it is that we're referring to.
right,
Doesn't have to get too detailed.
okay. Just a minor point, 3-year terms on the,
I would say, yeah, most of them I think are 3-year terms. Yeah, they all seem to be 3-year terms here.
okay. Good. Okay, any questions and any comments on what we talked about so far? All right, why don't we at least, I don't, at least talk about what the responsibilities of the tree board should be without necessarily deciding today. Like that's the most important part. So why don't we just open up a discussion of what you think, based on what your knowledge or what you read of the other towns, what you think the board should be able to do. Just throw anything out you think. We can narrow it
Okay.
down.
I'll
Sure.
throw out a couple of things. I think that the tree board should be responsible for, if not, well, for developing a tree inventory of all trees that are on state or town property, and to maintain that inventory.
I notice that's true of most of the boards out there. Yeah, good.
I think another area should be an education component.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that would be as much as, suggesting the kinds of trees that are appropriate under certain conditions, listing all the invasive species that should not be planted, distributing this to the citizens. So if they want a backyard tree, they know, or they have some guidance in terms of what is appropriate or not, things of that sort. I think we also ought to promote the educational or the ecological value of trees and try to establish that as young as possible. I would suggest the high school for starters, and then parents and town citizens.
very good. That brings up a question in my mind. Do we need a budget? If we're going to do education, it could be it could be online on the town's website, or it could be pamphlets. I don't know. I mean, what were you thinking, Shirley? Anything specific that?
I hadn't thought about the financing of it, and I don't know whether it could be self-financed as whatever might be decided, might be mitigation money that would come in from developers, et cetera. But yes, I think there are going to be some kinds of expenses, such as distributing flyers maybe, or I don't always trust the availability of information on a website in terms of reaching the largest number of people. Anyway, that's certainly
Okay.
something to
All right,
consider.
we can talk about that later. Anybody else? Powers?
Well, certainly, the board should be in charge or have control of whatever mitigation money is brought in.
Yep.
And what is done with it.
Yep. That's the whole reason this started. Yep. No question about that in my mind. You want to say how, in conjunction with anybody else, Bill, in terms of specify now that say this is the mitigation money the board will determine in conjunction with the highway department and BIA?
Certainly, certainly, it should be in very close contact with the highway department, because
Okay.
I would imagine if we ever come up with a planting schedule, that the highway department will do the planting. And
Okay,
that's one of the reasons we need Paul on board, of course.
right.
Who's going
Well,
to,
regarding budget, if there is funding, mitigation funds to plant trees, then perhaps a portion of that or an additional budget is needed to maintain those trees. When you do plant a tree, there is definitely needs care, or it is not going to survive, especially in, in a streetscape or somewhere that it's, more vulnerable and needs watering and so on.
Okay, when the planning board asked for mitigation money for the flex building, $7,500, which is now in town treasury, and we're due to get $20,000 shortly. It was specified that that money would be given to the town prior to the cutting of any trees, and that it would go to the planting of new trees. I think that what's your point, Bill, is good in that mitigation money should be a wider possibility than simply planting. It could be more, it could go to other aspects of trees, correct?
planting and maintaining?
And protecting, yeah.
Okay. How about tree farm, which has been brought up? What do you think about that?
Again, Ray?
Yeah.
A tree farm. It's been suggested that we at some point start a tree farm.
That would be in order to grow established trees that could then be transplanted? Yeah.
Right,
I mean, and obviously that would have to be on town-owned land or open
right,
space.
right. Some people-
That would be amazing, yeah.
Some people have talked about and actually looked for space within this town for it. And they seem to have come up with, I've heard of 2 or 3 spots that the town could do it. I'm just, again, we don't have to, we're just throwing things out here about, some of the things that we could put down as the responsibility of the board may never be used. I mean, so I see nothing wrong with putting the possibility of a tree farm in the responsibilities of the board.
Would one of the other responsibilities to coordinate with regional environmental agencies such as the Taunton River, Wildlands Trust, like some of the other nonprofits that kind of manage open space and would be aware of, some of the vulnerabilities in this region?
Okay, that's good. Yep. Let's decide on something right now. I noticed some of these other tree boards regulate trees on private land. Do we want to go that way or not? I
My
think,
recommendation is to say no right off, but I wouldn't, I think that we may get into that.
I agree with you, Bill. My initial thought is no also. Simply politically, that's could be a much more difficult thing to fly.
I
But
would-
why don't we simply postpone that to a later time this summer to see whether maybe we can do more investigating on our own to see whether we want to try something like that. Shirley?
I think that the educational component might be an entryway and a softer pedal, if you will, to that by way of furnishing information for homeowners or people who privately have land as to what might be appropriate trees and what might be dangerous trees or whatever. So I would rather see we work in an advisory capacity and an educational component than just come in and sort of come down with a hammer and say, we're going to tell you what you can plant.
I
Well,
agree.
the only thing I wonder is if, I suppose during development is perhaps where we do have some control or may want, more input into the extent of trees that are removed.
Well,
Um,
Nicole, the planning board already has powers to do that.
Yes.
But I think your point is valid, though. Maybe the tree board can advise the planning board on what trees should be taken down if they're too near the road. We had a situation a while back where there was a very nice tree, and we thought we were going to save it, but the road was built and it was too close to the tree, and it did kill the tree and it had to come down, which was unfortunate. But I think your point is valid, though, that maybe the tree board can give advice to the planning board and other boards as to whether trees should come down or what trees should be saved and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it looks like even some of the draft text gives a little bit more discretion in the protection. But it doesn't seem to be many prescriptive requirements like for clear. I mean, you technically can just clear cut 50 acres if there's no prescriptive requirements right now that say you can't do that. It just says, you must protect to the, it's more to the greatest extent possible or to the discretion of planning board.
Well,
I know we probably don't want to go there right now, but there is,
No.
at least, yeah.
We actually sort of have. I mean, the two areas we're getting money from, we simply asked.
Good.
But the
Okay.
new-
Yeah.
Once the zoning is approved, the new zoning, Chandra, I don't know when that's going to be approved, but once it's approved, there is language in the new zoning that gives us some teeth.
Good. Yeah. That's what I was just scrolling through again.
To get mitigation.
Yeah.
The point about clear cutting, though, I don't think there's, and Jennifer, maybe you can help. I don't think there's any law or anything in this town, and maybe other towns, about clear cutting, whether that's
No.
no.
I found a few examples that I had shared with the ad hoc committee, several months ago. It really was sort of, a percentage of clearing that you're allowed and things of that nature, or requirements for maintaining a buffer alongside lots and edge lots, more of like a subdivision situation.
Yeah,
Developers would likely not like that because clear cutting allows them to regrade substantially and level everything out and make it easy. If you need to, only clear certain percentages, you lose lots, you lose, the ability to really, fit as many houses into that area as possible. But, there are examples though, where there's been, large upland forest areas. They aren't really protected because they aren't in wetlands, but they do provide connections between different stream valleys and river valleys in the Taunton River. So those are, in looking and thinking about the open space in the town and what we don't control, those are the most vulnerable,
Right.
the most vulnerable areas.
right. Yeah, no question. A couple of the other towns give the board the power or responsibility of trying to seek grants too. In other words, to bring money in through grants,
Yeah.
which we may never do, but it'd be nice to be able to at least potentially do that.
Yeah.
For something. Okay. What was I going to say? I lost it. Education. Somebody else. What do you think? How about recommending? It may not be part of the permanent board, but at least making a strong recommendation for a part-time or full-time paid tree warden in this town.
I would back that 100%. And that would go into the recreation of a forestry department.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Marilee in her speech to the council did bring that up, that and you did, Bill, also, when I read your speech, that we used to have a forestry department and a tree warden, the paid tree warden, and we've gone downhill since then. I thought it's obvious to me that the way we should make that recommendation. Yeah. Somebody else. Powers, responsibilities. how about becoming the major board in the town and we decide everything? No, no.
Leave that out.
Benevolent dictator in the town. No. Okay. So I noticed one, it says permit the removal of certain trees on private property upon appeal by the applicant. I don't think we want to go there, you know. All right, I have to give this up in about 5 minutes. I think I said I'm in favor of short meetings. I think we've made some progress. Could I make a recommendation that you all look at again some of the stuff that Jennifer sent, and maybe just go online and do a Google of tree boards in Massachusetts and see what they do and see what the responsibilities are. We seem to have finalized or close to finalizing the makeup of the board. The main thing now is to come up with the powers of the board and what they're going to do. Maybe we can do this fairly quickly. I don't know. Oh, one other thing. Michael has said that twice to me that he will work something out so that the money that we have right now can be spent in the fall plantings, even though the permanent board is not in effect. He didn't say how, but he essentially said it would happen. Do we want to make a recommendation as to who is going to advise him on this?
Can I interrupt for a second, Ray?
It's
Can I just,
coming. I'm told.
when the planning board voted those conditions, I believe the conditions were specific about who is to advise on the spending of that money, including the BIA and the tree warden. So I think there's already specific language as to who should advise on the spending of that money.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you want to do something different, then I would just caution you that if it strays too far from the conditions of the planning board, it would have to go back to the planning board for amendment.
Yeah, since I made that recommendation in the first place, I have no problem with it. Yeah, anyway, but we still could maybe, no, scratch it. The thing is though, Jennifer, Michael has to be reminded of that. That's all. That was the agreed upon thing, that he doesn't decide that he likes oak trees and therefore he's going to plant oak trees. No.
I'd be happy to remind you, Michael.
Yeah, remind him. Yeah.
I'll make sure he gets a copy of both of those decisions with the condition highlighted.
All right. Anything else you want to bring up that I've missed?
We bring up this this establishment of using the money that's already in the pot for fall tree planting. Can we bring that up at the next meeting?
Sure.
Are we going to plant trees? Who's going to pick them out? Who's going to do where they're going to go and things of that sort? And it's not just go out and buy them and then sit them at the highway department in the driveway until they die.
Yep.
We need some organization there.
Fine. Anybody else? Okay, so our next meeting is June 28th at 2 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
Josh, you'll send the stuff out, right? Josh, you there?
I'll send everything out.
Any questions, comments? I'm being thrown out of here, so.
Yes, you are.
So,
Yes, I can. We can see that, Ray.
I was made very clear, you're out of here at 10:30, so. All right, thank you very much, everybody. It was good. I think we
Thanks.
accomplished something, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.